We're on. Okay. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight. Our workshop is on Boulder County moratorium and rezoning. We have here with us, in case you haven't met her, Hannah Hipley, who's the Senior Long Range Planner for Boulder County. Did I get that right? Close enough. Welcome. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
So we'll have a staff introduction first. I don't know who's going to take that. Is that?
It's going to be Andrew.
It's going to be Andrew. Okay.
All right. So I will kind of go over the details, and then wherever there are holes, can back me up, and then whatever questions I can answer. So it's appropriate time to ask for questions. So just as the staff report that you all got had the Boulder County staff report to PCDC, but I believe the Boulder County Board of Commissioners was also provided. And then also, hope you had some time to watch the PC meeting recording. It provided a lot of insight to both staff's thought process and the Planning Commission's of Boulder County, the Planning Commission's recommendation. So I'll read just a proposal summary, and this is off the docket, but just to kind of state it for the record, the Boulder County Planning and Permitting staff have proposed a comprehensive zoning amendment to the Boulder County zoning map. This amendment, approved by the Boulder County Board of Commissioners, will result in the rezoning of higher intensity commercial, business, transitional, and general industrial zone districts within the town of Lyons 3 Mile Plan. All affected parcels are proposed to be rezoned to 8 agricultural, which is the county's lowest intensity district. And that was planning staff's, Boulder County planning staff's recommendation. There are 20 lots, correct? There are 20 parcels, mostly clustered down in the eastern corridor. Really the only one up here, not even in town, but towards Apple Valley is the church parcel, and it will remain unaffected. Its use will be fully compliant under this zone change. So as part of the process summary, just provided a direct quote, but let's see, on September 5th, 2023, Boulder County adopted a moratorium, and the purpose of that moratorium was to give county staff time to reassess zoning within the town's 3 Mile Plan based on the county's comprehensive plan goals, then also a few of the town's comprehensive plan goals, and then also based on some past annexations
You keep going.
Some past annexations and the 2013 flood, and just some environmental changes that have happened. And then also just changes to commercial area in general on the eastern corridor. So as far as the impact for the town, there will be, as a result of this, there will be a handful of properties that will be made non-conforming, and these are your more commercial and one transitional zone. The others will remain unaffected because their current uses will be conforming within the agricultural zone. Kind of where the value comes to the town is for those properties that are not going to be conforming and that will be legally non-conforming. When they want to intensify that use or change the use, they would then be required to come into the town. And that's based on kind of two functions. Boulder County doesn't really want to be a competing development process. So it just sets where a developer could be like, well, is the county better for what I want, or is the town, so that's one thing. But then also, I just lost my train of thought. Let's see, go through my notes.
You were talking about the reasons the county thought this was a good
sorry.
idea. Yeah.
As a forewarning, I've been up for quite some time, so my brain's not the best it normally is. So, and also the county's just not in the business of providing urban services or requiring you know, sidewalks to be contiguous with the area. So another big value, is stated by county staff, and I agree, is that, you know, especially in the eastern corridor where we do have planning processes and we want to bolster those processes in the future for a mixed use district. If a use was to convert to a car wash, which would be allowed in the commercial district, it could put a hole, kind of a legacy hole in the planning, in kind of our planning program. And I likened it to, in the planning commission, where there's, like, I guess you've seen the movie Up, where there's the little bitty house and the big development. And that wasn't a good thing. They were trying to push that individual out, but that's kind of, at least what I see is when you have a conflicting use, that's not, you know, not part of that. And that could be a result of this, because you could have one of these uses, which they could establish that same use in the town as well. But just making sure that these properties, if they are going to be developed, come under kind of the town's purview and planning process. So then on to Boulder County Planning Commission's recommendation. So Boulder County Planning Commission agreed with staff's recommended motion, except for they made two requests. And that is that properties that are currently zoned commercial or transitional that have commercial activity on them be reconsidered for a zoning designation separate than agricultural, and that the intent of the Lions Boulder IGA is honored upon consideration. So I did take this to the Planning Commission last Monday, went through the same packet, and Hannah was also here to provide support. And we went through, and when asked kind of what staff's recommendation was, and kind of looking forward, you know, I see the value in urbanizing properties in the town, and we have those regs, and we can make sure that we do. We have drainage systems that align with each other. We have sidewalks that connect with each other. So I do see benefit, you know, in bringing those, and possibly bringing those properties into town, and the handful that are to be made non-conforming are contiguous to the town. So there's, I mean, utility barriers, but outside of the 1/6 continuity, you know, they could be annexable into the town currently. So after that presentation, and I'll let Brandon read their motion. This is where they landed. But again, I gave kind of two options: this whole planning staff's, county planning staff's recommended motion, or have a motion seemingly the same as the Planning Commission of Boulder County, which provided for a little bit more study for those lots that were going to be not conforming.
So PCDC made a recommendation to support the Boulder County rezoning plan, but with the proviso that reasonable efforts be taken to prevent or minimize financial harm or otherwise to property owners. And so that's the kind of the second part of that. So it's somewhat conditional that it's reasonable effort be made to prevent harm to the property owners.
And can we ask questions? Or?
I want to make sure that Hannah has a chance to add anything if she'd like to.
I don't know if I have anything to add other than that staff did follow up on the direction from our planning commission and took a look at 5 of the parcels that they pointed out. They were zone commercial. They had current active business uses, and the Board County Commissioners packet does include another option for consideration by our board. I think the second piece of that motion by our planning commission about having the intergovernmental agreement and the intent of that intergovernmental agreement factor into that consideration is critical. Why this conversation tonight in the planning commission the other night is so important. So that when our board is considering sort of options for rezoning, how those chosen zone districts either reflect the town's goals and its intent for growth in that region or that area of town or not, so. Thanks for letting me be here today, but I'm also here to answer any questions.
Well, I have one question and then I'll kick it over to you if that's okay. So you said in your board's packet, they have another option for consideration. Can you outline what that is?
I can, so, following planning commission, that's bigger. I'm trying to look at this on my,
Yeah.
very small. So there were 5 parcels that we identified following the direction of planning commission, and those are, there's a parcel on the far east end of kind of the IG planning area. It's on transitional, it's Blue Mountain Stone. So that's a transitionally zoned property that has a business on it, so that was included. Heading west at the intersection of 66 and 36, there's 3 parcels on the north side of that intersection. One of them is the one on the east side of the intersection on Highland Drive. So again, met the criteria, it's no commercial, has some business activity. And then there's the parcel immediately to the west where the marijuana establishment is located, and the one immediately west of that. So there are 3 there. And then about, I don't know, third of a mile further west on the south side of 66, is the Freisig Stone Yard. Again, also is a zone commercial, has a commercial activity. So those are the 5 parcels we took, a little bit deeper of a dive into, thinking about whether, business zoning or transitional zoning, might, achieve some of what our planning commission was looking for. So in that packet, staff's recommendation was for, on the Blue Mountain Stone property, to actually maintain the change of zoning to agriculture. That property is in a floodway, it's in a floodplain there, and there's significant environmental resources on that parcel, so our recommendation remains to keep that one. The agricultural zoning actually makes the most sense for that property.
And the zoning only changes if the use changes.
No, the zoning would change immediately.
Okay.
It would become non-conforming.
Legally non-conforming.
Until they
Okay.
change use.
Yeah, and the use runs with the property, so if it were to sell to a like use, an owner that would have the use the same, that use would still be, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, and on this parcel, it appears that the multiple principal uses that exist on this parcel is already non-conforming to our code. So it will continue to be a non-conforming use under the agricultural zone district. The property, which is kind of that cluster there at 36 and 66 on the north side, staff has suggested business zoning on the Tebow property, which is the eastern property at that intersection on the north side, as an alternative. The retail personal service uses are what we think is in existence on that, and that use is allowed by right in the business zone district. So that could continue. Moving west, the marijuana establishments, staff has suggested transitional zoning for that, where a marijuana establishment could continue to exist. And then again, moving west, staff has again suggested transitional as a potential alternative. We understand that in the past, that state has had eating or drinking places or retail personal service uses. And those could be, the transitional zoning allows the establishment of a variety of uses. And then the Freisig parcel is the last one that we suggested, another option for Board of County Commissioners to consider, and that would be transitional as well. as that does provide a path to bring the property into conformance with the code.
Okay, thank you so much.
Sure.
Trustee Eden?
Is the staff report done or,
Yes.
okay, yeah, well, one question about what we were immediately talking about. So some of these properties would change from commercial to ag. When you assess, what the property taxes are going to be on a property in the county, does the zoning affect what the property taxes will be?
So I am not the county assessor. We would need that expertise in the room to really get to that.
Brandon, do you have a guess?
Typically, yes, yeah, ag is much less than commercial.
Just below us.
Oh,
So-
okay.
And that's, I mean, they're talking about, oh, well, you know, we could have, like, our asset could be worth less. Well, they're gonna pay a lot less in taxes too. So I'm not as hip on the PCDC being as overly concerned about their property, the value of their property going down, because they're paying a lot less in taxes. The other question I have is, do any of these properties, do they use any of our town utilities, water or sewer?
Not currently.
So none of these properties use our water and sewer.
No,
And
no, Longmont provides electric to all of them as well. I don't think Isaac has town electric. No.
okay, so, but if they wanted a more intensive use and they wanted to be on our water or sewer, they would have to annex.
Yes.
Okay. And that stays, that's still solid, right? Okay, the last question then, I have is, the ag zone in the county, does it have a notion of, like in our zoning, we have a notion of use by right and conditional use review? Does the ag zone in the county have a conditional use review for certain things?
Absolutely.
Would we have any say over what that process? Would we have any
Input.
input to that process?
The special use process in the county, includes the town alliance as a referral. And that process is one where, you know, we take an application in, we send it out for review by various agencies and partners. And then we take that feedback and analyze the criteria that we have in our code that we're required to use in order to make a recommendation. So that's how the referral comments get pulled in.
Okay, so it's just a referral. I mean,
It is.
okay. All right. Okay, I'll stop my questions, but I do want to say, overall, I mean, if paragraph 3, or no, the page 3, the last paragraph, I completely agree that our joint interest is for us to not be competing. And I really, really appreciate Boulder County being conscious of that. That we're not competing entities and property owners aren't just gonna play us off each other. And so I really, really appreciate you being very thoughtful about that. So overall, I'm pretty excited about this, at least coming out of the gate here. So I'll stop and let somebody else go.
Thank you. Other questions? Go ahead.
Yeah, so I have a question from a clearly like non-educated planning perspective here. What are the impacts of having like a non-conforming use or being in a non-conforming situation? What does that mean exactly?
Yeah, so I mean, it's like if you build a shed in your backyard and it's 5 feet away from the property line and the town changes its standards to 15. We're never gonna make you tear that shed down, but if you wanna make that shed bigger, or if you wanna move it within that setback, then you would have to bring it into compliance. So that's a very simple version, but it's the same thing with a use. So if you have, you know, again, we'll use a car wash, even though it would be an allowed use. If you have a car wash that is allowed, you know, under a certain zoning district, and then it's moved, and that's not a use that's allowed anymore. If it's legally non-conforming, that legal means that you have the right to that use. You just can't substantially expand it or
Change it.
or
You can
change it.
continue it as it is, but if you're gonna do major changes, then you have to bring it to the current code.
Okay, so for example, if we look at the property where Blue Mountain Stone is right now at 4720 Ute Highway, if that is considered non-conforming,
Mhm.
then how does that affect their business?
They continue what they're doing. It's, if they ever go to change its use,
Okay,
You'd have to comply
they
to
have
code
to
that
comply
exists.
with the code at the time they make that change.
so as long as they're still selling stone, they're okay.
Yeah, but if they wanted to, make it a Walmart, they
Right.
couldn't do that unless the code at that time allowed for it.
So there's no financial impact, there isn't a fine or anything like that?
No,
No,
Okay,
we have several legal non-conformities in
Okay.
play.
yeah.
Yeah.
so it's legal. It's just
Sure,
not-
legal.
Okay,
And then,
thanks. Go ahead.
and then also, should they choose to sell that to another
Mhm.
stone business, that they would also be able to continue
Correct.
That's correct.
non-conforming use.
Yes,
And it might actually be worth more because it's tax less. If it is in fact tax less,
as
under
that.
aggregate, as.
I mean, getting the valuation is difficult, right? Because, the value could be continuing that business or it could be future development opportunities. So it's hard to say how that would be valued.
Do you know what the difference is in rate between?
It's significant. I remember Paul Tamburello, when he didn't know what he was gonna do with the parcel on the north side, it was still in the county. He had requested it be zoned ag because that is their lowest taxing bracket they have.
Did you have a question?
No.
Can someone talk a little bit about the outreach that was done to property owners and what their responses were?
I can do that. We notified by direct mail each of the impacted property owners immediately after the moratorium. When we had done some more work on our end, we sent another notice with the zone district that we thought might, be the recommended one, and requested and invited folks to reach out and speak with us. And some folks did. It was very low percentage. I think I talked to 4 property owners. And then we also sent, of course, direct mail of the planning commission and the board of county commissioners who are not coming.
Can you kind of estimate a percentage of folks who were opposed to this versus those who didn't have an opinion or were fine with it?
Well, like I said, I only spoke to 4 different property owners. I don't know that's very.
It's not, I know it's not a big sample. I'm sorry, I guess I was assuming that you might have received emails or.
Really, we have not had a lot of contact with property owners, which is, part of what it's doing is challenging.
Yeah.
We can reach out, repeatedly, but we can't really force people to the table and have a conversation with us if they're not willing, or, maybe it doesn't impact them much. I think for certain property owners, it has a potential to have a bigger impact than for others. But the three that we heard of have letters in the packet that I don't know if you saw or not. And then I did talk to Northern Colorado Water Conservancy District as well, and they have they own a couple of the properties.
Is this, since they're not on our water and sewer, there's, that limits what you can do to the land, right? And what businesses you want to put. You can't put a Walmart on a well, right? Obviously.
Presumably.
Is the county going to be more restrictive on the wells and the septic going forward? And does that factor into this at all?
I think you can see from the development that we have out there in these areas of the county, the impact of not having urban services. The county does not regulate wells in the state of Colorado, the State Division of Water Resources.
Okay.
That's sort of under their jurisdiction and control. So we actually don't have a lot of influence over the
What about septic?
septic is regulated by the county Department of Public
Okay.
Health. And I don't know what you mean by more restrictive.
Well, I would think being on a septic system would be a limited factor of what you can do with your land as far as developing it for a business purpose. Like the marijuana shop, is that on a septic system?
Yes.
It
All
is.
those are, yeah.
But
Could
it's-
you open up a McDonald's on a septic system?
No. I mean, the size of a parcel is always a factor. The bigger the use, the bigger field or treatment area you need. Sort of how you design a system, but generally the more intensive and more people that visit a site, work at a site, you know, how much water you're using every day, for example, in McDonald's, maybe wash equipment or, is gonna have an impact on what size
Mhm.
system you have. And on small parcels, that alone is probably going to be a limiting factor.
Yeah, I guess my point is I don't think we're taking away a lot of property value here. As a matter of fact, if you get zoned ag, but then you have all this grandfather non-conforming, it's kind of a win, isn't it, to them? You pay less taxes, but they can still do it, they can still run a business that's greater than ag.
Yeah, let's
Okay,
keep this for
I'm sorry.
questions. I'm gonna make sure see if Mayor Pro Tem has any questions. Sorry that you're not feeling well.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
So I do, one of the questions I've asked, and I'm still not sure have gotten a clear answer, is what are the uses for ag?
Yeah, and maybe this is a question that came up previously in one of our meetings, in one of our discussions, and so maybe Hannah, it would be helpful for you to talk about the special use process when it comes to more intensive uses on ag properties and how the money looks at that.
Sure. Because and it's a good question, because there are quite a few uses in the agricultural zone district that are allowed by special use review. In fact, I would say the majority of the uses that are allowed in the agricultural zone district require special use review. What you can do by right is generally agricultural things of relatively low intensity. The other item, the other set that requires special use review is a process where someone submits an application to us. I touched on this briefly earlier, but again, we send it on a referral, staff does a site visit. And then we take all that information that we've gathered in review the criteria that we have in our code for that. And I'm not gonna go over all the criteria when I don't have them all in front of me, but two, I generally summarize them as being, does the site itself have the facilities and the ability to support the use? So that's when we're talking about things like septic systems and water and parking, all those sorts of things. The other is the use appropriate in the context in which it's being located? So that's sort of what are the offsite impacts? How does it fit with adjacent uses? Is it, sort of what are the externalities that might be experienced by others around them? And is that appropriate in that location? So I sort of describe it as a two-part approach. Does the site work for the use? And does the site work for the context in which it's being located?
Yeah, and I think so the special uses are up there too, and I think you can understand why when we looked at this, some of the potential uses gave us some pause.
Yes.
So, you know, we just, so knowing that there's some, that you need to put it in those uses in context in order to approve a special use.
Yes, and I think another thing to think about the ag zone district is it sort of is predicated on a 35-acre lot, right? So
Yeah,
how you fit some of these uses on parcels the size of what we're actually talking about along the eastern corridors, I think would be challenging, maybe not impossible, but an airport is highly likely, you know, so there's some,
yeah.
I think we ought to be a little bit realistic about what's possible out there when we're talking about these more intense uses.
Yeah, but it's good to know the process. So, Mayor Pro Tem, does that answer your question?
It does one of them. I've got a couple more. Does this impact us building our St. Vrain Trail?
No. Not that I could foresee. None of these. No, all of that is on our own right of way that we own.
Okay, and it does not impact the businesses like Spirit Hound, Circle K, the marijuana in Raul Vasquez's properties?
No,
Okay.
other than I guess what might be next to,
Mhm.
what used to be the Clark's building.
Can you
But it
explain
would
what you
have-
mean?
Well, we'd
That's
have to see. if
Isaac's
it's still-
property, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's the only one that's even near these, but if it would be required to stay as a stone yard, it shouldn't have a major impact on
Okay. And then I couldn't quite hear when you were talking about the 3 parcels on the north and south sides. Can you go back and tell me what that was that you had said? It sounded like the Tebow's properties, the 2 of those, you are going to recommend zoning for commercial or business? I couldn't quite hear it. Unfortunately, it's not great over Zoom.
yeah, it's hard over Zoom, so I'm closer to I'll try and tell me if I get it wrong. So the County Planning Commission recommended 5 parcels, and the one you just mentioned is one of them to be zoned either transitional or commercial, to keep commercial zoning, and that property was one that was proposed to keep commercial. Did I get that right?
No.
Okay.
Can you show also on the map?
It is the Tebow property immediately adjacent to Colorado 66. So the one along the front is zone commercial and has active commercial activity. So it's one that we followed up based on our planning commission direction. What staff is recommending as an alternative to agriculture for the Board of County Commissioners to consider is business zoning on that.
Business zoning, okay.
Can you show me which, because are you talking about the front one or the back one?
Well, there's only one, yeah. So only one of those 2, and it's the one immediately adjacent to 66. So the south one.
The south one. And then the one behind it, though, would become ag. And he's selling both of those. Is that correct?
No,
No,
no, he's getting ready to develop on both of those and annex them. So we met with them today and they said they don't have any intent to, counter what the county's recommending here as they plan to annex. And they want city municipal sewer and water.
Okay. And then you mentioned the marijuana business, and I'm not sure which address that one is.
that would be transitional. That was the zoning. So the proposed zoning option from the County Planning Commission would be to make that transitional zone.
That's
Okay, so
24.
those are the 3 businesses then?
Yes.
Yeah,
So it's Zen Gold, Tebow on the front side. What was the third one?
Blue Mountain Stone.
There are 3 properties on the north side that we're talking about. It's Tebow, there's the marijuana establishment, and then there's a property owned by DMRR.
That's, yeah, that's in the back.
Right.
Is that the yellow building?
That's the house that just sold. It's the,
can't see it
this
from
is
the
a
road.
nice, it's in the back
Got
along
it. I
Highland
know
Drive.
what it is.
No, it's right along 66. Let's see if we have it.
AER Investment and DMRR are this same
It's
company with different
4435
LLCs.
U Highway.
4435.
And I do think there is a yellow.
Yeah, that is the
That's
yellow.
the yellow.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes.
Mhm.
It's not really a house.
Oh, the little cottage?
Yeah,
Yeah,
But
That just sold.
yeah.
no, that did not sell yet.
Oh,
Well, not that good anyway.
And so that little yellow cottage property is going to be zoned as what?
transitional.
Okay. Okay, that was I think that answers the questions
I
that
know.
I had. Thank you.
Okay, great. We're gonna wrap this up because we need to, open the meeting. So, thank you so much for coming up and spending time with us. Really appreciate it. Okay, so we'll close the workshop. I will call the regular Board of Trustees meeting to order. Can I have the roll call, please?
Yes, Mayor Rogan,
Present?
Mayor Pro Tem Farrell,
Present.
Trustee Elson,
Present.
Trustee Dottie,
Present.
Trustee Edding,
Present.
Trustee Dowman,
Present.
and Trustee Williams.
Present.
Please rise for the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Would someone like to read a motion to go into executive session? And then Dolores, would you send me the language, please?
Would it be okay to have somebody there read it, please? Because I don't have it
Yeah,
up.
you bet.
Thank
You
you.
bet. Anybody like to read the motion to go into executive session?
Oh, I can read it.
Thank you.
I motion to go into executive session being conducted pursuant to CRS section 24-6-402 4E and 24-6-402 4B for the purpose of determining positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations, developing strategy for negotiations, and instructing negotiators, and for receiving legal advice from attorneys representing the town on specific legal questions, and specifically determining negotiating positions and strategies regarding the intergovernmental agreement between the town of Lyons and Boulder County, and obtaining advice as needed from legal counsel on related legal issues.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay. Right.
And that motion passes all in favor.
Thank you. So if you'd send out the new link for Mayor Pro Tem and then the language. Great.
Dolores, can you send that to my personal email? I'm using my computer for my video there. Do you have that?
I may, I'll check.
Okay,
Would you also
thank you.
the audience what's happening?
Oh, before you end the meeting, Dolores, sorry. Just for those of you watching, we're going to move into an executive session Zoom meeting, and we're scheduled to reconvene on the link that you're at right now, around 7 p.m. to continue the regular meeting, just so you know. So you can go get a snack or, take a walk, and we'll be back in about an hour. Thank you.